Welcome to today's episode of Law Unpacked. I'm your host, Attorney Sean. Today we have the privilege of speaking with attorney Francis Jerome Shea. We like to call him Jerry, a distinguished legal professional based in Jacksonville, Florida with over 30 years of experience. Jerry has dedicated his career to providing legal advice and professional services to both the Jacksonville community and clients worldwide. Notably, he has extensive experience in immigration law, where he has assisted clients with treaty investments, employment and family-sponsored immigration, naturalized asylum, and deportation defense. Before entering the legal field, he built a robust career in accounting and finance, serving as an accountant, auditor, financial analyst, and even holding executive roles like CFO. On top of that, Jerry honorably served as a sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps, and later as a firefighter with the city of Miami. Experiences that instilled a profound dedication to discipline and integrity, not to mention public service. Today's conversation is particularly timely in light of President Donald Trump's recent return to office and his sweeping executive actions on immigration. The administration has declared a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border. With over 1,000 daily arrests reported, these developments have immense implications for individuals and families navigating the already complex U.S. immigration system. Given Jerry's extensive experience in areas like deportation defense, asylum, and investor-related immigration, he is uniquely positioned to help us understand how these policy changes may affect clients and communities. Today, we'll dive into his insights on the evolving immigration landscape, the challenges facing immigration and immigrants under the new executive orders, and the strategies he recommends to ensure clients' rights are protected. Please join me extending a warm welcome to attorney Jerry Shea on Law Unpacked. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here today. Very important subject that's on my mind and on the mind of many, many people that I have spoken with.
Well, why don't we start with some of the basics? So we often hear the terms legal and illegal aliens. Can you clarify what these terms mean?
Yes, they are not as they sound. Technically, they call people illegally entering the country only if they have not been inspected at the port of entry by the United States ICE agency. Uh, If you enter the United States and are not inspected, then you have entered without inspection. Not that you're particularly an illegal alien. And that, to many people in their minds, that limits the potential relief that's coming to them by being categorized as an illegal alien. Technically, they are not an illegal alien, they have just not been inspected for their presence in the United States. Now, do these people have relief? The answer is yes. And as in immigration, the immigration laws provide for numerous categories of people to enter the United States lawfully, even though they may have come across the border without inspection.
An illegal alien is somebody that crosses the border without going through customs and immigration control. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we have illegal aliens who come across the border unchecked and undocumented. And then what's the other, what would we call somebody that does come through your normal route?
They have been inspected and admitted to the United States based on the documents that they came with, whether it be a visa issued by their own embassy of their home country.
So we
And
would classify these as legal aliens. Is that accurate then?
yes,
So for purposes of our conversation today, we'll have illegal aliens and then legal aliens. And those are generally those that come and get inspected on their way in and those that come across illegally. Is that both accurate to
that's
say?
correct.
Great.
Yes.
And so in our and really with the particularly in the context of our current immigration situation, how can a person be legally admitted to the United States?
We have numerous laws on the book protecting the entry of people coming into the country, even if they come in illegally. There's a whole list of them, and I'll go down those specifically, but the immigration laws are simple but complicated, and they all depend on the individual circumstances, obviously. And that's why it's important to know technically every small aspect of their entry. Are they an overstay? If they're an overstay, from even coming in legally.
So you've been doing this over 30 years. Tell me, what are some of the common misconceptions about the immigration system that you've encountered in your practice? So what do people think and what actually happens? Tell us some of those.
Well, that's a very, of course, a very broad question. Uh, and every case is individually evaluated based on their circumstance. The, as to the relief that they can have coming in. The first thing is being truthful and preserving and presenting proper documents and not making any misrepresentations. Sometimes even a minor misrepresentation on filing one of the forms for the government for your entry into the United States, whether it be an I-129, an I-130, even I-485 for adjustment. Uh, Even though minor, the evaluating officer can determine that was a material misrepresentation. Therefore, you're being legally excluded from gaining that benefit. So very often ICE uses that uh, premise of misinformation to deny one's application. Um, and I give you some examples of that. Uh, Someone stating that they had a job working at a certain capacity, when in fact that's a lie on their application. They didn't have a job, they never had one. Even to the extent if your sponsor states that they were eligible and had the financial resources to support you when you came here by filing a financial affidavit. However, if they misstate their financial affidavit, overstate that, or understate their expenses, that's a material misrepresentation to the government that will end up denying the application, although everything else is in place.
So can you explain? So there's a lot of confusion about asylum. What's the process and what are the requirements that one individual needs to be able to obtain asylum here in the United States?
Excellent question. The asylum now is being used more frequently due to the conditions at the border. Uh, Many of the folks coming in from different countries around the world uh, will claim asylum, but have been given instructions by their handlers, usually cartels that are bringing people across the border. And the estimated figure is it is not almost, approximately 15 million people that fit into that category who have come across and claimed asylum.
So I want to hear this correct. You said there's 15 million people here in the United States that have claimed asylum that have come over.
That is the uh, published figure. I don't have any personal knowledge that's an exact figure, but in reading and hearing the news, which I stay up currently on, that is the estimated figure. And so this has also backed up our system in the United States. Some of the asylum cases are pushed out to 2513 before they're coming before a judge and it creates all types of problems. Um, the criteria for a legal asylum application is that you were persecuted by the government in your home country, either politically or because you are in a special social group, or it could be because of religion. But there are four specific areas of persecution that you must prove that you were a victim of. And usually, if you've been imprisoned and you've been beaten because of your political opinion, this was uh, one of the primary reasons for filing asylum. Um, and the fact that you are unable to return without the continued fear of being prosecuted in the future upon your return to your home country. So it's a complicated issue. In order to prove that you're entitled to asylum, you have to show that you fit into one of the four categories and have documentation and evidence of that. Um, and this is where most people fail.
So, how have the recent changes impacted the options available for individuals seeking legal entry into the U.S., which includes asylum?
But they haven't. Uh, they have always been there and are still there. The laws have not changed as far as that's concerned. It's the processing that has changed because of the volume of people and the denials um, of the manufactured issues on being persecuted has put a crimp in the system because they want to, our government wants to certainly recognize if a person has been truly persecuted because one of the four categories, uh, then they want to grant that person asylum. That has been our laws for years, as long as I've been practicing. And now uh, there's it's difficulty. One of the issues on the asylum applications, one copy has to go up to the State Department, who backtracks it to the country of origin where you came from, and getting information out of these countries where they're just sending people over and telling them to claim asylum, has also delayed that particular process.
Jerry, talking about asylum, you said there's quite a delay or quite a wait list to get your case heard. How long is that wait list currently?
Well, we understand, and through publications coming down from immigration, they could be 7 years out before they come before a immigration interviewer to determine their eligibility.
So what I'm
For
hearing is that it would be if I were to file for asylum today, it's going to be 7 years before I get my day in court.
it could be, although we have seen cases coming through where they have made an initial valuation and they move those cases up to the end of this year. So there's a broad range depending on uh, how the immigration asylum officers view the credibility of the actual asylum application.
That makes a lot more sense. Jerry, I want to switch topics just a little bit here because we've been talking a lot about asylum, but we have a lot of employers that tune in and watch our show and listen to our podcast. What are some of the potential legal consequences for employers who hire individuals without their proper work authorization?
Well, without the I-9 approval or viewing that, the penalties can be quite severe. And I've seen penalties up to $1,000 a day. So an employer has to be extremely careful. I had a floor worker, American citizen, on the floor company, and he had illegal aliens coming in. ICE agents came out to the construction site. They were building about 15 houses, came in, arrested all of the illegal aliens that were there, and in charge of client a substantial sum of money that put him out of business.
That's really important. So employers that are listening, make sure you're using e-verify and your whatever your state requires and recommends to verify your employees because you definitely don't want to be shut down due to having illegal aliens working for you.
Exactly.
Jerry, I want to ask you, so let's say ICE does come out and they're in a based on what I've heard that they're deporting people sometime within 72 hours at this point in time of them being uh, uh, caught or arrested by ICE agents. Is there anything that is there any type of relief that somebody who's facing deportation they can apply for to potentially stay that deportation?
The ICE has the authority to expedite removal of anyone who is not legally in the United States. Generally, and I have to use the word generally because there are obviously always exceptions that the ICE may perform removal on. The potential of that happening are pretty slim, but it is happening. And so, to the persons that are being deported, expedited, deported, uh, the circumstance, you have virtually no relief coming. You can't file for asylum at that point. Normally, if you're in the country and you're a family, you should have already filed for something, a spousal uh, petition, uh, some type of work authority, other things that are pending within the system. If you're filed for nothing and you're here illegally, the ICE has the right to come in and expedite your removal.
Jerry, so I want to go back to the deportation order. So, is there an appeal process for those that have received a deportation order? And is what are their
Yes.
chances of success if there is one?
Yes, it can be appealed to the Board of Immigration Appeals in Virginia. And I have had success on several of those appeals where the order of removal has already been entered. Um, However, usually when the court makes its decision, they have a complete record, a recorded record of the proceedings that you're appealing. And if the participant seeking asylum does not articulate all of the reasons that they're seeking asylum and supported by legal documentation, the chances of winning asylum through appeal are not well.
So, talking in general, in your experience, what are the key factors that can influence the outcome of an immigration case, whether if it's an appeal or any other immigration matter?
Well, virtually showing, uh, we have cases where people are hung by their legs upside down during interrogation. And when they were taken out of interrogation, they got a medical report showing the bruises on their legs and that type of thing. Um, Also, in the past, I have used a psychologist uh, and other professional people that can talk about what happens to a person who has experienced these type of conditions under what they're seeking asylum for.
So this is with regards to asylum, but what about any other immigration proceeding? Like if they're requesting like an I-9 visa or something of that nature. What are some of the key factors that can influence the outcome that you would suggest that I think I heard earlier that you mentioned, don't lie in your application, something of that. So what are those key factors that you believe that can influence the outcome of a case?
Always the truth. Secondly, evidence, critical evidence from third parties, not just your affidavit as to what happened. You have to have, very often we've had witnesses giving affidavits because they were in the country at the time and they understood fully what happened. The more evidence that you produce from third parties that have personal knowledge, also from our State Department that has a whole section on evaluating country conditions. And by that, are people being persecuted for their religion, because of their political views, because they fit into a certain social group, or other categories? Um, a third party from a government agency, again, our State Department, and there's organizations worldwide that that evaluate and study uh, asylum issues in different countries and do reports on. So it's again evidence, 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 and the truth.
How do you approach and Jerry, let me go back. You spent 30 years practicing immigration, but you also are a fantastic criminal attorney, and I know that because I've seen some of the big name cases that you've worked on. How do you
Yes,
deal with clients with criminal records seeking immigration relief?
it depends on the crime. There's a categories under immigration called aggravated felonies, and that's where it's usually a situation where you committed a crime that you are going to be sentenced to at least 5 years in prison, and you have actually been convicted of that, and you have served a prison term of at least 5 years. So it gets to the person of being a person of good moral character. The they're very difficult. If you have fallen into the aggravated felony category, there virtually is little or no defense to that. Um, I never use the term "there's never any defense." Uh, in the past, we have looked at situations and we found that one item that gave the individual relief, like it should have been a self-defense case, as an example. And the evidence pointed to that, even though they were convicted of the aggravated felony. So you have to look as a counselor and lawyer, how do you resolve this problem? And that's what our job is. We take the facts and we try to find a resolution for it. Uh, Sometimes when the evidence is so damning and obviously uh, a violation of good moral character, which is the essence of how the ICE looks at your case, then uh, there may be relief. Normally, there is not relief where there's been an aggravated felony. I would say you might have 5% chance.
What advice would you give to individuals currently residing in the U.S. without legal status who wish to regularize their situation?
I would tell them to look in their neighborhood, find an experienced immigration attorney, meet with that attorney in confidence, that's what happens. Have a consultation meeting, bring all of your documents, everything that you came to the country in, any criminal offenses that you had. But there's other things, your children's school records, um, letters from neighbors, letters from your religious organization that you're a good member in standing and you attend religious ceremonies and services, whatever it is. So with that, you get an opinion. Um, Now, there is relief coming if you are a spouse of an illegal alien and you file a petition, it gets denied, and you end up in immigration courts. There is relief there if you have been in the United States in a unlawful capacity for at least 10 years. But during that 10 years, you've been a person of good moral character, you filed your federal income tax returns, your children class reports show that they do well in school. There's no, obviously, criminal records, misdemeanors of any nature. You can have relief. They usually grant relief to people who are established as, as, as people with good moral character.
I read recently that you mentioned file your federal income taxes. I read recently that the federal government recovered or received over 20 billion uh, from illegal immigrants in one of the most recent tax years, which is a pretty substantial number. But I'm sure there's a lot more that probably could have been a lot more folks that probably aren't filing their taxes. So I think that's a great piece of advice. Jerry, can you share any notable cases from your career that highlighted the complexities and nuances of immigration law?
Every case that we get does that. I've represented the general of the Northern Albanian Army during the fall of the pyramid schemes in 1998. Um, Very unusual circumstances there. When the government fell, there's an issue in Albania called the Kanuni, and he was a priest in northern Albania in Macedonia that we had to prove that they were retaliating for the death of one of the people who raided the arsenals and was shot. And our client, who was the general of that particular area in northern Albania, had to escape from the country with his family. And we were able to give him some assistance there. Uh, I've had other cases, even of a more recent, in Bosnia, Herzegovina, war crimes cases that was affecting a person's, he had become a citizen in the United States. It affected uh, his position. Uh, very difficult to overcome some of these when the judgments are in other countries.
Is there anything else that we didn't talk about today that you feel like the public or our viewers and listeners should know?
Yes, don't give up. There is relief almost every category. You can get waivers of inadmissibility to the United States. You can get waivers of being removed from the United States. You are able to bring your case before the immigration court under certain conditions. And there's a relief at every position. And we have found, digging deeply into a person's experiences, by golly, there's relief there. And so my advice is don't give up. If you're a good person, of a good moral character, and you're honest and truthful, don't give up. There are so many programs intended in the United States to help uh, people like that fall into that category.
Well, Jerry, how does somebody reach out to you to get more information or to get help?
I'm careful about email inquiries because we unfortunately receive so many, it's difficult to respond to all of the emails every day. We can be reached at 904 399 1966. Now, I'm also going to add our email, but it's legal, legal, at attorneyshea.com. All lowercase, legal at attorneyshea.com.
As we conclude today's episode of Law Unpacked, I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to attorney Francis Jerome Shea. Jerry, for sharing this invaluable insights into the complexities of U.S. immigration law. His extensive experience and dedication to justice have provided us with a deeper understanding of the challenges and nuances within this critical field. To our listeners and viewers, thank you for joining us in this enlightening discussion. Your engagement is what makes these conversations meaningful. If you found today's episode helpful, please consider subscribing to Law Unpacked. Your feedback helps us continue to bring you insightful discussions with experts like Jerry Shea. For more information on Attorney Shea's practice, you can visit his website at attorneyshea.com. There you'll find resources and contact information if you or someone you know needs assistance with immigration matters. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll continue to explore important legal topics that impact your community, our communities, and the rest of the world. Until then, stay informed and stay educated.